Hi babes, welcome to Hamilton's Halogen, and this is your friend, Carrie Hamilton. This is a place where darkness meets illumination and truth becomes your turning point. Just like a halogen light burns brighter and hotter to reveal darkness, this podcast is about bringing light into places that many avoid. If you've ever felt lost in the dark, this space is for you. It's time to stop surviving and start shining. Good morning, babes. I hope you are doing amazing this weekend and enjoying time off from work for those that don't work on the weekends. Today I want to talk about an F word, and no, it's not fun, and no, it's not the four-letter word that we love using to degress our emotions. This F word is forgiveness, and I'm hoping that talking about the way that I forgave and my view on forgiveness can maybe help some of you that are struggling with that. Because we tend to think in our heads, how could we forgive somebody that did such disturbing things and literally gave us a new meaning of life? Or maybe something happened to you, maybe a trauma or something you endured, and you think, how could I live like this? Maybe you were in an accident and lost a limb, or maybe you're sick now from whatever situation you were in. And a lot of people think, how do I find forgiveness in that? Every day I wake up and I have this memory that sits over me, and it's not a memory of good times. It's a memory of someone's horror movie. And how I was able to forgive, and of course we all have different situations of trauma that we go through, but the mental aspect of how I took it was the fact that I needed to forgive because all of us were sick. And I know some of you may say, okay, well, how does a brand new baby like myself at the time, how am I the sick one when my father abandoned me? Or how was I the sick one as a naive child when my ex-stepfather was abusive and did some very disturbing monster type things to us? And yes, that is horrible. And yes, how could an innocent baby or innocent child, how could they be sick? And the answer to that is, I was sick by consumption. I was sick because I was in toxic environments and poisonous environments that no matter what, the environments were making me sick. And this is why no one could become healthy and no one can heal until they're taken out of the environments that are making them sick. There is no handbook to this life, and how we perceive it and how we live it is what our parents taught us, the beliefs that we were given, and our overall experience from what we did and went through when we were a child to where we are today. This is why so many people always say, well, I know what I don't want to do. Like I knew I would never abandon my children because I knew exactly how that felt and that pain was to never have my dad stand up to the plate, especially when I needed him most. And, having a stepfather that abused, and the only time that we were showing actual love is when we needed to be presented in front of family and so forth. So our love was conditional. It was based on the conditions of what we were doing and how, what our life was going, what was going on in our life. And so I was raised to feel that I wasn't deserving of love unless I gave something. I didn't get attention unless there was some toxicity or drama or chaos connected to it. And having emotionally immature parents, this is a huge issue, because anytime that you are raised by emotionally immature parents, your needs and wants they come second to that parent, because they are in survival mode, or they are learning life themselves. So they're always emotionally unavailable to the child. And the child suffers from this because they only know attention and love in chaos and commotion and situations that are toxic. It was the discovery of the abuse that finally saved us. And although I was taken out of the trauma, without therapy and discussion, the trauma was never taken out of me. So I held it like a weight in a book bag, and it reflected on everything that I did in my life. But the thing is when you are unaware of your situations, and when you have emotionally immature parents, they see things at surface level. So they think that the solution and the answer was just leaving the abuse. But wounds, they don't just cut you, they sever you. They go deep, deep inside. Like when you plant something, let's say like a tree, it starts out as a seed, and in time, it grows larger than anything. And eventually, it grows so big that it's almost unmanageable. And because that toxicity and that trauma was never taken out of me internally, I seeked the same love and attention and affection when I became an adult. If it wasn't suffrage, I didn't know it as love. If I didn't sacrifice myself, I didn't know it as love. Because those catastrophic and traumatic things, the abuse and the use, that was what I thought love was. So if you weren't using me or abusing me, you didn't love me. I was married for 10 years, and I think that the reason it even lasted that long was because we were on opposite schedules. So a lot of our marriage was coming and going. And my ex-husband was normal. I would always say his family was like the Partridge Family, because they just were so, it's just him and his sister and his parents, and they just knew everything about each other, and, so tight-knit and just, very close. And for me, that was actually something that was hard for me to adapt in the beginning, because I come from split families and I have many sisters and a brother, and so we didn't have that tight-knit, knowing everyone's business at all the time type stuff. I mean, I remember when my ex-husband came to my home for the first time, and my sisters and I, we fought like cats and dogs. And I remember we got in a huge fight. I mean, and we, again, because of the toxicity and that, we fought from the streets, you handled your business. And so my sister and I got into a huge fist fight. And I'll never forget, I remember looking at my ex-husband, and he was just like a deer in headlights, like, what in the heck am I, like, where am I? Am I at a boxing match? Like, and the man still stuck with me. But all jokes aside here, but because of that, because of his companionship and attention and love, and in that, that's what he grew up as. And he gave me that, and here I never felt loved, because he didn't give me the chaos. He didn't give me the toxicity. He didn't chase me in arguments. Like, we never fought. I don't think we honestly, we probably raised our voices a couple times, just seeing, not seeing eye to eye. But I mean, I swear to you, we never fought. But because I always knew love as a sacrifice and something I had to give, this also began making me find love in things. So I would buy a car after another car after another car, and then a house, and then I needed a bigger house and a bigger house. And then I always kept myself busy. I mean, at the age of like 32, I owned 2 businesses, 2 companies I was running, and I just was constantly doing something because I needed that adrenaline. I needed that hype. I needed that, go, because that was when you're fighting from, to save your life, when you're getting abused as a child, your adrenaline is pumping. So your mind and your body, when you go through abuse like that, you're in what's called fight and flight. And your brain, I've told you this again, it's going to keep coming up on all of my videos. It's the steering wheel to your life, you guys. And your brain, when you are in abuse, it releases cortisol and adrenaline to, in that fight mode. And then when you're in the love bombing part of it, it has the dopamine and the serotonin. So because I didn't know what love was, my brain felt unbalanced. I needed both. I needed the hype and I needed the love. So here my ex-husband's giving me the love. So now I needed the hype. I needed that new shirt. I needed that new thing. I needed a kid. And then we had, our other children. Like, it just was like I had to constantly fill something because I didn't feel you literally, it's an addiction, and you feel like a drug addict. And if you don't have that drug, you don't feel normal. And that's literally how it is when you come from toxic, a toxic lifestyle. And then when you actually have normalcy, you don't know what it is. So this is why also I harp on every one of you about healing and doing the internal work, because even if you may be looking for love, but even if it's sat in front of you and it's something you had, you won't know that it's that. And that is the exact reason why I divorced my ex-husband. I filed for divorce because here I sat there and thought I was literally begging him to love me. And I didn't even love myself. How can I know what love is if I didn't even have it for myself? And that's why healing is so important. Because if you haven't experienced it, how could you know when you have it? And how can you give it? You can't. And because I didn't know this love, I wanted to go find it. I felt living with him, I was living with a friend, and I felt in my head at the time that it would be no different if I lived with a girlfriend from school, and so I looked at the love of my marriage, that it was more of, a friendship, and I wanted to go find that soulmate. You always see people that really truly are in love, and it's like I wanted that feeling, and I didn't have it. So I got divorced, and about 2 or 3 years after my divorce, I fell victim to a narcissist. And I don't even like using that word because unfortunately so many people use it so freely, but those who have been in narcissistic relationships know these people are the devil. And I only dated this person for 11 months. And my entire world flipped upside down. Not only was I used and abused, knowing what love was, right? I lost everything. But the prize out of it all was that I still had my soul. And for that alone, I am blessed. I needed this. I needed that pain. I needed that hard time. I needed to lose everything because here I cherished everything and it was really nothing. I needed everything taken from me so I knew the true value of what everything in my life really was. And I needed to find myself. I needed to know what the importance was. And it's in the silence that you no longer have the outside distractions to, take away from discovering the true importance of life. And I wouldn't know love today had I not lost the things that I once called love. I needed that rock bottom because I was placing my confidence in other people's views and opinions, and I needed to start placing it in myself. And I needed to find out, this was what led me to therapy, because anyone that's breaking from a true narcissistic, abusive relationship or marriage, the victim does need professional help, because only the strong really do survive. And so this is how I discovered that the whole time I was raised to know what love is not and not what love is. So that narcissistic, abusive relationship that literally almost took my life was actually the light to my life, because the lens of the camera that I was looking in was actually the lens of destruction. The pictures that I was making of my life were filtered. They weren't reality. And here at my lowest times, I wanted to give up because I felt like I was being destroyed. But really, it was God saving me for discovery. And this was why I forgave, because although I didn't abandon my children or abuse them or others, I abandoned myself and I abused myself because I didn't value my worth and I didn't place myself at a higher standard because I didn't know any better. And I can guarantee that anyone that hurts someone has lack of knowledge themselves on how love really is and what love is. And that's exactly why they project it on others. How could you be mad or upset with somebody that's sick? And when you're sick too. Luke 23:24 says, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. And of course, that doesn't mean that they don't know they're abusing you and that they don't know that they're choosing themselves over their children, or they don't know that whatever it is, whatever destruction that's being caused. It's the fact that they don't know right from wrong, just like I didn't. And now I know what love is. And that's exactly why I'm waiting until I know for sure that someone is of that equal value for me. Because now I did the work and I love myself. And that's not in a conceited way. That's in a knowing what I deserve way. And I hope each and every one of you can get to that understanding, because you no longer lead then in emotion. You understand and you see things a little more clearer. You realize that life is a mirror and it is like a camera. You may not be there for the moments, but the lens that you see through is the lens that becomes your reality. And sometimes we have to understand that people just don't know any different. They don't know any better. And that's why they do what they do. Many who abuse are broken, and they understand the abuse as attention, as love. And that's why they do what they do. The pain, the trauma, the silence, none of it develops without light. And forgiveness is what that light is. It's what lets the light in. So don't stay negative. Develop.